Okay, so we're recording. All right, so welcome everyone. This is Julie Lindsay and this is INF 537. And I think this is about our sixth colloquium this session. So, a big welcome to Judy O'Connell, who is the mastermind actually behind this degree. So we're really lucky to have Judy in this session with us. And this really is a focus on your first assessment, which is, or the first main assessment, which is the digital scholarship.
I about that. Okay. I should have had a look at that. Sorry, I didn't even think of it.
I think you've got it covered, Judy.
I think it's a long time since I looked at that assessment when we were drafting it. But anyway, I just want to talk about digital scholarship from a couple of angles. Welcome to the couple who could come along tonight, and hopefully a few others will pop in and have a listen to this. It's just, we don't have time to have a serious academic discussion on this. You've got enough readings in your modules really to kickstart that process. But what I want to do is really to position where digital scholarship for you and for us should sit in terms of building our knowledge, continuing to build our knowledge in the various environments that we work in. So I will start with the concept of academic scholarship. We often talk about other angles, but I'm going to start with the sort of the really, the deep area of what we really do with our research and our work. Once we've been working in an education setting for a period of time, we know that we have to get past or beyond just the day-to-day practice. We actually need to undertake some kind of investigation, potentially research, to understand what the future demands are going to be for our students or for our teachers or for our education environment that we're working in. And this is where academic scholarship kicks in. There are a lot of areas that refer to this. It started, you can see I've added some text here because it's got some important references, and the last slide has got a list of reference lists, a reference list, my apologies. The Boyer was the first person who proposed a structure around understanding how academic scholarship works. And now obviously this was in the text era, but nevertheless he had four important bullet points which I've listed on the side: discovery, integration, teaching and application. Highly relevant for anyone working in an organisation related to the learning and teaching needs of its clients or its patrons or its staff or its students. And this model has resulted in actually three decades of commentary and debate. And it's used as a starting point to understand what scholarship has been and what scholarship needs to become and what scholarship currently is in this era, the digital era that you're working with in this degree and in the jobs that you hold in your own organisations. It's interesting to see that the concept of digital scholarship was stretching people's minds in the initial stages of investigation. But the last quote there is important. Digital scholarship can only have meaning if it marks a radical break in scholarship practices brought about through the possibilities enabled in new technologies. In other words, there's been a shift in what scholarship is or has been. So scholarship, clearly, research as such has got a centuries-old tradition of research, of reading, of looking at materials in archives, of investigation, and it goes back for literally centuries. But there has been a major shift in the digital era, and I want to extrapolate how that has affected what has happened in that sort of space, what it is that we need to be mindful of, pulling together some of the threads that you will have canvassed in some of your other modules. So one of the areas is to remember that in all this discussion, you have to understand information literacy. You need to know that there's a place for knowing how to work with information, with being aware of developing your own information literacy knowledge and capabilities if they are still evolving, if you haven't had much experience with understanding the meaning of information literacy, and that in fact underpins a lot of what happens in the next set of words I'm going to talk about, and that's digital literacy. So you will have canvassed digital literacy in a whole lot of ways in different subjects. And again, another classic researcher and leader in the field of information studies is Borden, who has a small volume called Digital Literacy's Concepts and Policies and Practice. And there's just an extract from one of the chapters there. So just highlighting things like knowledge assembly, reliable information hoard. Julie's got an information hoard, I happen to know, in her Evernote stash. And it's a really great information hoard. And I learnt from Julie how to make better use of my Evernote to create my own personal day-to-day information hoard that helps me move through the digital realm, helps me do my research, and helps me pull together what it is that I'm doing and understanding knowledge environments that I work on. This requires me to have better use of my information retrieval skills, which is related to information literacy, but more importantly, it links to that whole cognitive, that brain function process, the critical thinking that supports our ability to make informed judgments about the information that we work with. This is critical. It is essential. Knowing how to find, work with, research, do, analyse, put things together is vital to research and to academic scholarship of any kind. And it also requires good, in this era, good digital literacy skills which build on that notion of information literacy. And of course, as you know, this needs you to have a strong PLN, needs you to have a good set of tools at your fingertips, and it needs you to work with people networks and all those sorts of things. So you can see there's this kind of cohesion between the different tools, different concepts rather. So information literacy to digital literacy, because it helps your information seeking in the 21st century. And then it moves on to see if there's anything here I want to highlight. No. Research on digital literacy often focuses not only on what it means to be digital literate, but conversely, impact, etc., on other things. So I'm going to leave that slide because it supports your analysis as you prepare your essays and things, the assessment task, which I'm sorry I should have had a look at. But it's real-time thinking. I love that. I highlighted that down the bottom. It's real-time thinking. The way that we operate in a digital environment is very much more efficient in some ways, but also disruptive, because it can be very cohesive in using multiple tools to multitask as we do our research. So, you know, if I go back 20 years, I can go back 20 years, I presume you guys can too, going to the library, going to the bookshelves, going to even the microfiche reader when I did my first postgrad degree. That whole gathering process of information was long and tortuous. It actually meant that at a master's level or any kind of postgraduate level, you often rarely touch the edges of scholarship on particular discipline areas. But now with digital databases, with knowledge networks, with that ability to communicate and be able to store and curate your own information, the level of engagement that we can have with the scholarship that's needed in our education settings is actually much higher and much more interesting and much more exciting, potentially, in terms of the influence that we can have on the organisation that we're working in. But it does require good academic scholarship practices. So digital scholarship becomes really critical. So the question then is, if you've got information literacy and you've got digital literacy, how do you develop digital scholarship, which is the inheritor of the original concept of academic scholarship? Well, obviously, dead giveaway with the slide that I've got here, it is a cup of coffee. And of course, it's a mobile phone to be connected with your colleagues. And of course, it's being online, as well as a notebook. So to be a digital scholar, I suggest you need to read into and look into the various concepts, particularly information, or understand them, information literacy and digital literacy, in the way that it empowers and enables digital scholarship. I think that's the critical thing. So you've really got two ends of the spectrum, the same story, but in different eras, and enabled by particular skills and practices along the way. So you know this from the subjects that you've taken, that it's essential to be a connected educator. that you need to be teaching fluently, collaborating synchronously and asynchronously, a little bit like this, using digital text all the time, annotating digital resources, using your tools to do that, more particularly using curation strategies, sorting, sifting, storing, making sense of what you have got, and ultimately leveraging creativity within that framework to enable your connected education practices. So you've got the connected educator becoming the connected researcher. You have to be connected in the first place as an educator if you're going to be a connected researcher. But this is where nice words like cognitive and affective dimensions start having a really important place in the research that you can do. You want it. It can seem complicated and disruptive if it's a new process for you, but it really is about creating and developing a digital flow in the way that you work. It is certainly about publishing online and also creating and making in order to publish online, and therefore working collaboratively and sharing the products that you make, which of course leads on to that open enabling framework in which Julie is quite expert in terms of open environments. Not always possible in terms of academic research. Currently there's a lot of debate where certain universities, not ours, do choose to publish everything in an open environment. But as you know, many of the materials that we use in our courses or our subjects actually use published material that is behind a paywall. So we don't pay because we belong to a university community and you can access those materials. But if you are not doing a degree and if you're in an organisation that doesn't have access to some of those materials, those things are limited to you. So it's not a philosophy that we tend to promote as a part of the Knowledge Networks degree. We do understand how important it is to, with the escalating speed of knowledge creation, that we be open as far as possible in that, what we create and what we share. Naturally, within all this, you've got the social media practitioner. It's all hand in hand, working with the connected digital environment and being participator in the work that you do, critiquing, improving, reflecting, sharing with others through those networks, trying not to have too many fights along the way or political disagreements, but it's that whole ability to understand the social media environment, knowing that particularly if you work in schools, how that works with young kids or teenagers is very different to how that might work with adults, and particularly wanting to learn how to nurture learners regardless of what environments they're working in, that social framework. The other side of it, of course, is using social media to promote the research and learning that you're doing as a professional. So sharing it through not just open publications, but also through Twitter and Facebook and other social media channels that are relevant to your organisations, setting up promotion tools, whether it be, a blog that disseminates information, whether it be a Facebook page or a Facebook group that promotes whatever it is that you do. Learning how to use that social media practice to support professional work and support professional research is also part of digital scholarship. So I thought I did connected educator. I did. Is that a duplicate slide? No, it's not. So is there anything else we want to have a look at here? The paper that I'm referring to, one was where I was looking at the whole notion of academic integrity in higher education. And I put that in there as a reminder to us as we work with our colleagues. And if you're working in an education environment, working with staff or with students, to understand that who we engage with needs us to be sure that they also understand copyright, they understand plagiarism, they understand how to attribute information and ideas, images, creative works appropriately, to choose a Creative Commons and appropriate Creative Commons license where you can, to share materials. Of course, I understand if you're in a workplace where you can't share publicly, that's a different story, but you have to be aware of the decisions that you need to make, and you have to build your own personal information practices almost as a toolkit experience and communication for other people, towards other people, I should say, as well as organising your own digital environments around those. Being connected with your PLN is crucial for that. A 23 Things project that was built a couple of years ago when Julie and I were working together. I built this for, I can't remember why, Julie, but anyway, 23 Things for Digital Knowledge is actually used quite a bit in different organisations as it happens, not so much at CSU, but I keep getting requests from different universities and higher education libraries to use it as a professional development tool with their staff. So it's a sort of thing, the 23 Things movement has been around for quite some years now. It's all open and to be shared, and one lot of 23 Things is built on somebody else's 23 Things, on ideas are shared across platforms, and it's another way of leveraging, building that knowledge base to support digital scholarship as well. So as a reminder, you've got the top tools. Will that go there? Yep. 23 Things, you would have come across these somewhere along the line. Published every year. What's her name? I've forgotten her name that does this. Jane Hart, there she is. Does the survey every year. You can vote in it, and it's a really good way of keeping track of the sorts of tools and things that are favoured, if you like, and an interesting thing to research to see how things have changed in the last 10 years or so. So it's a skill set, it's a tool set, it's information literacy, it's digital literacy, ultimately all put together with the ideas of what you do to research and to learn to create digital scholarship. And it requires that you manage and curate information. Again, some slides, a couple of images from Beth Cantor, who's done a lot of work in this area. The notion of content curation has become so easy. There are tools that you need to make choices about. A good place to learn some of these tools, if you haven't started doing them, is to make sure that you trip into your library, your academic library, and find out what you can do besides the obvious things of making lists or whatever. Not quite sure if you've done a bit of a survey with the students, Julie, to see what they do to manage their own digital environment. That'd be worth doing if we haven't got that at this stage. The guys that are there today, do you want to share what your main go-to tools are for managing, say, your study or your work?
I think at work I tend to use Facebook.
Yeah.
For a lot of things, because in science we've got a new syllabus this year, so everyone is putting things in new groups on there.
So that's a way to share things with each other. What about you organising your own kind of personal digital environment? So if you're studying, doing an essay, what do people do to do their essays, to do their assessments?
I use, as Leanne here, I use Evernote.
Yeah,
and
great.
I use Google Drive a lot, actually, just to store everything. But Evernote is what I'm using. I've tried using the others, but it's finding the time to learn how to use a new tool.
That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a whole subject on tools.
Yeah.
That would be a really nice thing to do. Julie, have you got any other tips on that? What do you do to share with them? I know you're an Evernote user.
Sorry, I just dropped out of the meeting there for a minute. Sorry. So we're talking about tips for content curation and sharing.
Yeah, what's your favourite go-to tools?
Oh, look,
your personal ones, because everyone's different. Yeah.
Google Docs and Evernote, I think, probably the main ones. Really?
I think so. And I remember some years ago, you and I were both great Digo users, but that's I've certainly fallen by the wayside for me. I certainly don't.
Yeah. I still use it because I've got it linked to my IFTTT account, though it does keep dropping out. There's still some issues with that. So yes, I still bookmark to Digo, and then it actually, through the hashtag, posts to my blog automatically. Those sort of things.
Yeah.
Make it easy to share when you don't have to think about it when you set things up like that.
Yeah, so it's that whole
So
workflow around doing these things, and also in an organisation working out how to share effectively with other people is critical to the process. That's definitely true to say. Oh, I can't see the word. Hang on, let me see if I can move you all. There you go. Now I can see what the last word is. So what will you do with digital? And the word has disappeared. I don't know where that's gone. But what will you do with your digital something or another? I should have fixed. Well, it's not displaying properly. Wonder what the word would have been. Do with digital.
Still in the blank, really, isn't it?
Should have been somewhere in there. So,
Yeah.
you know, I haven't shared anything deep and meaningful. There is a reference list there that actually covers some of the key concepts that I've shared tonight. But really, it's more about this slide here. For me, this is the game changer. That people need to sort of make sure that they've got the concepts in each of those areas covered off, and they understand what digital scholarship can be based on a blend of the original understanding of what academic scholarship was, enhanced by information literacy relevant to the digital environments, which has become digital literacy, onto digital scholarship. Really, really, that's my kind of piece on that one. Just going to exit that so I can see properly. Stop sharing. There we go.
Thanks, Judy. And I think the important thing to remember here is that it's not necessarily rocket science here. It's really about where you are in your own continuum, your own pathway, and it's to do with, as you say, curation as well as understanding the tools to be able to share. And I think you need to find your own comfort level in terms of your own personal practice. But, you know, in terms of this paper that people have to write, it's finding a corner of this work and focusing on a particular corner that you particularly want to investigate and write about. And
using that original sense of academic scholarship, in other words, doing that really big cognitive think, deep research, deep thinking about the issues, because too often, you know, we can go to a conference, we can go to a teach meet, we can go to just a gathering, and we can share tools and we can talk about how we do things, but that's not the same thing as that whole academic digital scholarship combination. So academic scholarship is much more rigorous than just writing up something quickly, learning about something quickly and thinking you've got a grasp of it. Academic scholarship is understanding what everyone has to say on the topic. What's the current research on a topic area? What are the leading exponents in the area, possibly? What are the points of contention? Where do you agree and disagree with the issues that are being raised in that particular area? So academic scholarship and digital scholarship are two arms of some serious research. They're not just digital literacy and information literacy, which I see as the fun side of getting involved and engaged in information and knowledge making, creating and sharing. Digital literacy is all about that content curation as well. But scholarship is a whole different ballgame, and that's what the first assessment is really asking you to dig into. And I think the tensions in scholarship really, in terms of openness, really there's that whole sort of, is it open, isn't it open, how do we make it open, do you want it to be open, where do you put it to be open as well. You know, that's that you know, they're all really interesting themes that could be teased out in, as you say, an academic way within this paper. That's right. Yeah. Any questions for Judy?
No, Judy, that was just fantastic what you just said. Just clarified something for me about the difference between having fun with, you know, blogging and just playing with social media, as opposed to academics scholarship and what the difference is there. So thank you for that. That clarified that for me. I wasn't taking notes, so I'll probably have to come back and read.
Right. Oh, you can always listen to that.
Yeah.
The thing about academic scholarship, sometimes people think this is not relevant. It's only relevant maybe to academics or people in serious government jobs or whatever. But if you think about it, anyone in an organisation at any level, whether it's a teacher at year one or a senior lecturer, if you are asked to present, for example, a proposal or come up with a new thing that you want funding for, if you understand that it's really important to understand the the academic scholarship foundations that underpin this thing that you want to do, and you present that as part of the rationale, that's doing academic scholarship to foster professional activities in an organisation. So, and that's where a lot of people fall down in terms of their writing of project plans and so on, not knowing that they haven't done enough research into the area. They're not going to convince their managers or their leaders. They're not going to sway them into thinking in new directions unless they provide those really clear arguments, not just passion arguments, but actually grounded in what's happening in research areas, validated. It's the validation. I keep writing that on students' essays. Validate this statement. It's the same thing. It's too easy to be passionate without being academically grounded in the history and the knowledge and the future possibilities. So it's so critical.
Yeah, I think that's a really timely reminder, Judy, actually, about that. The necessity for grounding and we talk about initiative and innovation and opinion matters and experience matters, but that academic grounding has to be there, particularly in this subject, particularly at this level of the master's degree.
It does. Yep. And that's a key takeaway from studying a good master's program, is that you learn to become someone who can lead an organisation. You're not just somebody who can do a job well, but you can lead an organisation in new directions, and you can do that because you've understood the importance of all these different aspects of the digital knowledge network environment. And we've got plenty of examples, haven't we, of graduates who've done just that. They've moved on and led their organisations into different places and done different things with their own careers and so forth. And it's getting a voice really for your own capabilities, because each student brings with them to this degree their own set of capabilities, but it's almost like they're still in training wheels in some ways. They haven't refined their ability and allowed themselves to soar above the masses. And how do you soar above the masses? It's by knowing how to dig deep, find the information, and put together a succinct argument and put forward a case. And you do that through academic scholarship and digital scholarship. There's no shortcuts on that. So it's worth learning how to dig.
Okay, and on that note, I think we're going to have a short meeting tonight, which is okay. Any other comments or questions for Judy?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Just going back to Boyer's framework.
Yep.
Model. I'm sort of trying to work my way through that because I'm trying to link the concepts that I'm into that for the digital part. I'm okay with the discovery, the integration. I'm getting a little bit confused once I get to application in the digital. So can we just go through that framework a little bit?
Yeah, so Boyer's framework didn't apply to the digital environment at all. But he was the first person that articulated a way to understand how, at what he called the academic professorate, in other words, academic researchers, how their job worked and what it was that they were doing to contribute to the development of knowledge and so forth. So then it had to be translated. And let's go back to that slide. Whoops, where have you guys all gone? Hang on, I've got to find you and share my screen. Share, let's go back to it quickly. Okay. Righto, is that one? Yep. Here we go. So he's the first, then you've got all these, and what I'd like you to do, and you might even, whoops, move you people out of the way. I can't move you out of the way without losing the slide. The Greenhow, I'm not sure how to pronounce this person's paper, but you would have this paper, Julia, the Greenhow and Gleason. Anyone written by Greenhow is particularly relevant to this digital area, and they may even be in your resources somewhere.
They are.
They are, yeah. So you can see the trajectory that comes from that. So you said discovery, integration, teaching and application. Sorry, the question was?
Well, it's kind of, I'm trying to fit in, because I teach extension science and they're doing their own research project as their major works.
Right.
just trying to fit, cause just for my own personal thing in fitting that, what they're doing into this. I've sort of been slotting in where I think what they're doing fits.
No, well, see, you can't fit the kids' research into this because they're school students. They're not doing academic research in the way academics are doing, which is what Boyer's original model was referring to. But what it gives us in that framework is the identification, which previously hadn't been spelt out, was the different areas that you need to work with. So discovery, integration, teaching and application applies to lecturers. It doesn't apply to school students doing research. So you won't be able to apply that directly.
Okay, so but what did he mean by application? I get that it's going sort of outside and relating it to...
Yeah, to the context that they're working on.
Okay.
So in my case, the application, if I'm doing research or have done research on information seeking or the academic integrity, which is a recent one that I did, and how does that apply to the context of the people who are concerned with academic literacy? What are the issues that we need to have a look at? What do we need to change in terms of the environment to ensure that academic literacy is treated appropriately, et cetera, et cetera. So how do I teach people? How do I apply the scenario? How do I apply situations to the scenario of my lecturing, my teaching, my course formation? How do I influence academic literacy as part of the teaching process? So you can see that's all about the academic environment, or could equally be applied to school education, but not to the kids who are doing their research.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't quite figure out when I got to application. I was like, this isn't working for me.
No, it's not going to work for you. Totally not. So you're on the right track there.
Okay, because I was reading I went back to read Boyer and I just couldn't quite work out what he meant by it all.
No, it's fine. And it doesn't apply in your context. That's fine. But what you have discovered is that there's the origins of where this comes from, this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go on. So you'd be looking, what sort of research are they doing?
Well, because Extension Science this year, it's the first year it's run. And they've had to actually come up with their own project, either run their experiments to create their own data or find open data sets. So a lot of the kids have actually contacted scientists who've volunteered their research or brought the kids into the universities. And so we've got one guy that's working with someone on aerodynamics of different shaped parts for a plane.
Fantastic. Yeah, so what those kids are doing is applying their information literacy. Their information behaviours are top of the range if they're starting to look so deeply into the areas to gather their information. So they're gathering their information. That's all part of the information literacy process. And presumably they'll apply digital literacy skills in terms of how they source further information in terms of, say, journal articles or research articles in databases, and also in terms of potentially disseminating some of that information further down the track. Yeah.
I know one of the kids from out near Parks, I thought it might have been with Charles Sturt. She's actually just been published.
Wonderful. Isn't that marvellous? Wow, yeah, so such an early start.
Yeah, that are really getting it.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so certainly digital scholarship is kicking in early for kids like that. You can do that. Yeah, fantastic.
That's a really interesting example. Really interesting. Yeah. Okay. Leanne's just asked for a copy of your slides, Judy, and I just see that you've emailed them to me. So thank you so much for that. I'll be able to share those out as well as the recording. So I think anything else at this point? I think we're pretty good, actually.
I think it's enough because, they're going to keep working on their essay. Yeah,
they've got another couple of weeks for their essay, and just to hone in and refine it now. They've been thinking about it for a month, basically, but get this out of the way, and then it's into their research project in big time. Yeah. Okay, then. Well, look, thanks so much, Judy. Really
thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
That was really good. Thank you very much, and thanks, Julie, as well.
You're welcome. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Bye.